Good evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Xtreme Studios, just west of Orlando, Florida. I have from the great Midwest, the one and only RDV. And tonight we're going to be talking about the 2006. It's not a sequel. It's not a reimaging. It's the big budget version of Miami Vice from Michael Mann, starring Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx. And RDV, let me just start off by saying it's good to see you again. And I know that you've been watching, you're pretty much done with season 2 of all the episodes from the original TV show, because we've talked about doing the stream here. And I know this is a first watch for you. I haven't seen this in a long time, so it'll be interesting to get into it. But I wanted to, as people are coming into the chat, talk just briefly about something that came up backstage that I was a little shocked at the more I looked into it. And of course, when you talk about Miami Vice, you can't help but talk about Vice City, right, from Grand Theft Auto.
Yes.
And apparently the new one with the trailer releasing, going crazy and viral over the internet, you've got a lot of shots in there where the graphics, I think, are on the Unreal Engine 5, whatever it is. They just look fantastic.
Yes.
And to me, if you did not know it, or I'd like to say to you, did you know? A lot of those shots are almost like scene for scene out of this movie from Michael Mann. And Michael Mann, who was in charge of the TV show, decided to put this on here or whatever, because I guess Jamie Foxx is a huge fan. It'll be interesting here in a moment as we dive into it to talk about what worked and what didn't. But what did you think of the whole Grand Theft Auto Miami Vice? I don't even know if you played the game or, played Vice City or what.
If you're talking about Vice City from on PS2, yeah, I love that game. That was pretty much a mixture of Scarface and Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Which is still the best GTA game there is, because it had the 80s feel, everything onto it. So, and then you started going into more of the mob game, it's just, I don't know. It's like, so this new one's coming out. I was looking at the graphics and it's like, oh, it looks great, but it's not 80s.
Why is it not 80s?
It's set in current year. So
you're right about that. You're right, absolutely. I see what you mean.
I've never been a fan of the other GTA games because it just, I don't know. It's that Vice City game just raised the bar so high, and everything else has been kind of like, all right, we're just gonna go to normal everyday, like a Russian gangster or whatever. Or Five was okay, but we're not here to talk about that game at all. We're here to talk about Miami Vice.
The first impression, sir, give it to me.
I was not a fan of it. It was slow burn until I realized halfway through the movie, I was like, they just took an episode from the show, stretched it out, made it, and took everything that made the show great out of it. Of course, it's supposed to be Sonny Crockett and Ricardo Tubbs, but Ricardo Tubbs is nothing like he is in the show. Same with Sonny in here. Is much more serious versions, and just felt like it just lost the magic. Michael Mann wrote this for this. He also directed it. The episode actually is called Smuggler's Blues from season 1.
That's the Glenn Fry one, I believe.
Glenn Fry one,
and he starred in it.
And Michael Mann didn't write it; someone else wrote it. And it was only 40 minutes. And I gotta say, those 40 minutes are way better than anything you're gonna see in this. Now, that being said, it was kind of cool to see Miami Vice on the big screen, but the problem is that it doesn't have the magic. It doesn't have the original people. And when this came out in 2006, you could have had an older Ricardo Tubbs and an older Sonny Crockett, but they chose to go with a younger cast, mainly because Michael Mann, who'd been working with Jamie Foxx on Collateral, and I forgot what the other one was. But apparently Jamie Foxx had brought up this idea, hey, why don't we do a revival of Miami Vice, but do it as a movie? And he's like, okay. She's like, sure. So then they released this. Even Michael Mann has gone back and said, yeah, there's a lot of things he wouldn't want to change about it. He basically regretted making this film because the film flopped. Did not do well. Yeah. And I can see why. It's a very slow burn of Smuggler's Run. And it just got the point where if you watch the show, I've seen recently because you can easily forget the episodes because they kind of blend in together after a while. But I happen to be watching the seasons, which are currently available on Tubi, but I also have the DVD too because
you got the box set, don't you?
I got the box set. I haven't opened up because I'm able to watch it on Tubi, but still.
Yep.
when it comes to Sonny Crockett, you need someone who has a lot of charisma. And the problem is that Colin Farrell does not have charisma in this. They kind of like told him like, hey, do the opposite of what you normally do. Don't be a charismatic character. Be kind of like a more serious version of yourself. And they gave him a stupid mustache. I don't know why. It's I don't understand. Maybe that was put the derivation because I know Michael Mann wanted to keep it separate from the show. So that's literally why he made these changes. And problem is that fans love the show because the show was great. And you take away with the you Stacey snub the show and say we're just gonna do a serious version of that. You're realizing that your fan base is like I don't think you understood it. Like people like Miami Vice because it was Miami Vice, because everything was in it. And not because of the time, but because it's the fact that it was basically
it was huge, bro. I'm telling you, man.
I know it's huge. Everything you had the good stories. Like it was actually a serious cops show with a little bit of comedy in it. You had likable characters. You had a whole supporting cast. You had a great lieutenant, George. Yeah, George Edward Olmos or Edward James Ramos. Yeah, almost. This, like I said, Jamie Foxx is a person I normally don't like as an actor, and he was the breakout character in this. But like I said, it just felt like even the backup characters, supporting cast, weren't really even a supporting cast. They're just kind of there.
Yeah. White Tech really being goofy or having their own little sidekicks like the show. None of that. Gone. Totally gone. Yeah. Zero comedy relief.
Even Alonzo, I think beginning. I think that's supposed to be the other guy who was running the con games for them or something. I don't know. Anyway, but like I said, point being, you took away the great music too. There was no 80s music. You had a live band in a club, but it wasn't the same. You're playing Linkin Park with what this not LL Cool J. What's the other one? Everybody's married to Beyonce, Jay-Z. And other than that, that was the only thing. That was the only name song. Everything else was orchestrated or this kind of background. They did put a little bit of
in the air tonight.
John Hammer's yeah.
Well, the theme,
yeah. And even John Hammer was kind of annoyed because they didn't call him to come back for the score for this.
They should have, because here's what I'm going to say about my initial take, because you're going over a lot of points, which I think we need to take a look at here. I kind of like the movie, yet I totally agree with you because the movie doesn't offend me. It's slow, and I don't mind a slow burn. I like it more than you do, generally speaking. But a lot of the magic stuff, for me, I have to say this, as a guilty thing. I was just floored by, like, with Michael Mann, the way he filmed stuff. We talked about Thief with James Caan, incredible movie. And we talked about how he's not afraid to, shoot the environment, the wet streets, the buildings and all that. And it feels grungy. And he did a great job with that. And here, when I'm going, oh yeah, I can't wait to see this little shithole area that they're going to do a deal in or talk to somebody or whatever. And I'm watching the hand cams, all that Jason Bourne and all that. I like how he films the stuff. When you, after the opening gambit, when you're dealing with the human personality stuff, the right things are being done in this film. The way the two people talk and you get to know the characters. Like you said, they don't really have the charm, and it's a bit of a serious film, which normally I don't mind. But I didn't love these characters. They were just sort of there. And Colin Farrell's got those puppy dog eyes and eyebrows. And I agree, this is probably the least charismatic he's been. Jamie Foxx, I don't hate him. Some things I really like him in, but I like him like in Law Abiding Citizen, despite the horrible ending. I thought he was a bastard. And in here, I felt like he kind of carried it. He had some juice, and they did feel like they were a good team together. I like that because we don't get to see that too often, where they seem like they're equals. Jamie Foxx really, I thought, raised his game here with that. But you're right, the show's music is lacking. The Phil Collins remake of In the Air Tonight sounds very wimpy. And I don't hate Phil Collins at all. No. But I was just like, this is just giving lip service, and Michael Mann, you can do better. It looks great. It's very colorful, and he shoots it and you go, this is like the TV show. But again, to your point, the magic is gone. And it's like you're only 2 seasons in. So the only thing I'll say about the remaining seasons is they may change their look a little bit with their hair and all that kind of stuff. Yes. A car will change if you haven't gotten to that. And at some point there's a tiny small angle of him wanting to get married to Sheena Easton or whatever it is, and also him having like a concussion and thinking he's actually a drug lord. So there's always that TV stuff. But if you take all the episodes of Miami Vice and you put them in a 1 2 hour 20-minute movie, you would get this, because it starts off convoluted. There's a drug like sting stakeout kind of thing happening. It kind of doesn't necessarily go right, and it really has to do with the fact that there's multiple things going on with different agencies. And so right off the bat, you're like, fuck, there's a lot going on. But then it slows down, pays attention to the characters, and then it builds up the slow middle part here where, again, some scenes are great. You have Sonny when he's in the car meeting the drug lord, and you meet what's going to be his love interest, right?
Yes.
Be a finance lady. I'm looking at that going, what was really great was some of the shots. And so when Jimmy Foxx is talking, they cut eye to eye. And then when Sonny's looking, he looks down at the guy's watch, and it goes from watch to watch, and you go, they're matching watches. So they're a couple, because he would have bought that for her, right? I mean, so you can see what's going to happen.
I would say go back and watch Brothers Keepers. The pilot episode went for an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. That was great television. That was great TV movie. And dear God, like I don't mind slow burns, but you got to have something else than just other being it's just a slow burn. You got to have charisma. You got to have flair. This kind of just felt like you remember Pee-wee, and I think it was Pee-wee's Big Adventure at the end. He's at the drive-in, and you see someone comes on, and it's supposed to be like a serious version of Pee-wee Herman. That's what this felt like. It just felt so out of character. So it's just the point where I understand they probably he wanted to get away from the show, so he wasn't going to bring anybody in from the show back. But the lieutenant, I'm sorry,
Castillo, yeah.
It just felt like an everyday, just throw a random person in there play the character of this serious, quiet character. I like he's like Crockett, Tubbs, my office. It's like you take away that. It's like, oh my gosh. But like I said, this film, it just felt so like it wasn't made for the fans. It was made for him. He's like he hated the show and just wanted to make, well, I'm gonna make a serious version now, and didn't realize that, well, that's not what people wanted, and it showed in the box office. Well, I remember when this came out, I rolled my eyes because even though I hadn't seen the TV series, but I was like, just from the trailer alone, it's like, oh, this does not look good at all.
So in 2006, when it came out, one of the things is that obviously people are starting to shoot film digitally, in addition to a lot of computerized things going on. So this is also a time roughly about 15 to 20 years ago where you're starting to get serious considerations of reboot, like you had John Carpenter's The Fog and The Theme and stuff, right? And so it was still kind of decided like, oh, great, I can't wait to see more John Carpenter or more this or more that or Halloween or whatever it is, right? But then you started getting some of the stuff and you're like, well, why did I want this? Because you think of how it was before and then you get it and you're like, oh, this isn't what I remembered. And Miami Vice to me was different in that it was a very beloved show. It was an 80s show, and the guy was involved in it. Yes, they didn't have the original people in it, but you're like, oh, this guy's been doing it forever. He could do it. And again, when you look at the show, there's scenes in here that are just breathtaking. You feel like you're in Miami or wherever it's at. But in a show, the one thing they definitely did differently, besides the music, which we'll talk about here in a minute, is that you felt like you were in the different parts of Miami, whether it was South Beach, which back then was kind of crappy. Now, of course, it's different, but you would see them like grabbing a cappuccino at a stand and walk around, and in the background, you could see just normal Miami people doing their business and stuff. Here, this could have been any southern city, it felt like. I mean, yes, it's Miami, they reference it, but it doesn't make Miami part of the star. And that was one of the appeals of this, is that, wow, we're watching a show being shot at someplace tropical. It's not in Los Angeles or New York or Chicago, like on TV, right? Or some backlot.
Yeah, which Smuggler's Blues worked for the television show because it was always focused on Miami. And they're like, wow, they're going to Cuba or a little or right out of here. It's like, wow, I've never seen this in a show before. Right. Like it's a cop show. It was great. Yeah, I was looking up this. So when they were filming this, Nash Bridges was going on. That's
right. That was a popular show as well.
To say that John Johnson was too old, he was doing the same stuff he did on Miami Vice in Nash Bridges.
Yes.
And with Nash Bridges, it was a good show. So I guess, I mean, he probably couldn't get him if he really wanted to. You could make
Miami Vice right now with those two guys, and people will watch it. You could do it.
Yeah. Yes. Sadly, not everyone's. I don't think everyone is alive. I think the guy played.
I thought Ricardo was still around.
Ricardo's still around, but I'm thinking of is it Zito?
Zito, I think's gone, or Swite. Yeah, one of those is.
Swite, yes. One of those guys is gone, passed on. Yeah, I just kept thinking like what made me my advice was great was the music. It was the girls. This was kind of like let's just throw an everyday 2000s club scene in here, but it has like it wasn't folk. Remember, they really censored this though as far as the girls go. I noticed that.
Yeah. What did you think of the main? So to me, I thought the main bad guy with the cocaine eyes there sitting in there, who had her as a lover, he was fine, but I wasn't terrified of him or the other guy that was a simp for the Asian woman. But what did you think of her? She's played by Gong Li, who's been around, I guess, for a long time. I thought she looked good. She was a decent bad news.
She's a decent actress. She could have worked in the show back then too. And she probably wasn't old enough, but still, like. Her character, she's been in there. She's been since she's 17 years old, and that's why she's only known as business, But you kind of felt like she's falling in love with Sonny in this movie, and then he's like, he's talking to her, and then he's like, basically pulls her dress. So he's like, almost like she's kind of like disgusted a little bit, but she goes with it. At first, I'm like, she's two timing it, but no, she probably has realized she has no choice.
I think she's the mastermind of it all the way she is. And I know he's going to try to sleep with her, but this is classic Sonny Barrett. He gets involved, maybe a little too deep that he shouldn't. And he's got to have Ricardo go, hey man, you sure about this? And they do the bro thing pretty good where he's like, I'm never going to doubt you, partner. And it's like, okay, that's fine. That's cute. And at the end, he kind of says the same thing to him when her, it was really stupid, but it was so obvious when they're getting ready for the final shootout there at the end, when they're in the airport hangar and they're loading up and they're talking or whatever. And then he says, man, I'd never doubt you. And he says, as Trudy would say, because she's almost dead or whatever like this, I don't fuck around or like that too. I thought, okay, that was cute. And it was like a 30-second TV timeout because you hear the guy in the background go, time, like it's a TV timeout or something.
It was funny. So it was funny because in this movie, because the Copper Smuggler's Blues was basically Trudy gets kidnapped, because what they do is they in the episode they pose as an undercover drug runners, and then what these bad guys do is the guys in Cuba, they went to drugs. They kidnap your girlfriend or your wife or COVID, and then they put her in a trailer home and they put a bomb around their neck, and they're on a chair, basically they can't leave, and so seeing this, comparing the show and then going to the movie, it's like they go in there, guys holding the trigger. She's like, I'm just forget it wasn't Judy. It was supposed to be the other one character's name. What was her name? Gina ends up going in there, and she is like, I'm just gives her a little speech, and all he's like, you're gonna shoot you in the head, with this over whatever. And by the time you realize it, your body's not going to be paralyzed from the neck down, and it's just like, and then she shoots the guy and falls over, and even though he's holding the dead man's trigger, bomb here, and it's like he drops it. She doesn't blow up or nothing. And then these casually we'll just pull it out like they know what they're doing. In Miami Vice TV series, they called it a bomb squad. They even went in there. They even had the fiber optic camera crawl in there. Sonny went in there, even though he's not supposed to. And they basically played, they're able to deactivate the device, But it was, as I said, it was much more serious instead of just rushed like this. This kind of felt like they knew their bomb squad. It's like, she's got a thing strapped around her neck. C4 is like, and they just go in there like, there's not a second detonator. They use the main bad guy doesn't trust Sonny, doesn't like him even from the very beginning, and maybe because he takes videotape, or the lackey takes videotape of them getting really really close while they're dancing. It's like, what am I watching, a soap opera? Yeah, because he works the club. He's like a security guy, and he's I guess you would say he's supposed to be the main bad guy, but he's more the lackey than he is. He's supposed to be the lackey, and the other guy who is in charge of all the drugs and over, he's supposed to be the main bad guy, but he's just there. He's an idiot. He's an idiot. We'll just use your drug. The guy's the mastermind behind this. So anyway, he hires his Aryan Brotherhood to go kidnap Trudy, bring her to her home, and it's just the most sloppiest scene I've ever seen. They got an old lady or like a meth head, and it was just so weird. They're watching TV. They're strapping her to she's tied to the chair, putting a bomber on it, blindfold and everything. It's just like they might as well turn on The Price is Right. At this point, it was just so weird for me personally. But gas, of course, the shootout scene. Now, any of them here, in the very beginning, there's a lot of more gore in this. When the two fads do a meetup,
Yep.
With these guys, the crooks,
Mhm.
that they're made out to be fads, and they just pump them full of lead. You see, you get a camera angle from the inside the back of the car passenger seat. You see the dude in the driver's seat gets his arm blown off.
Oh yeah,
obviously a
right off the
dummy,
bat.
but yeah, I was just like, ooh, this is getting kind of gory. And then it kind of keeps this as you get towards the big final shootout scene. When he pops 2 bullets, Sonny does, in the guy's head, and you see him go boom, boom. And it's like you actually see it. I was like, oof. But yeah, like I said, this is a much more serious take on what was more that lighthearted TV series with a little bit of flair drama, and a little bit of humor. It was like the perfect mix. Like I said, it's like, why fix something that's not broken? That's my thing. But I don't know. Like I said, you can do it perfectly an hour and a half, the 2-hour movie. Is it that this movie wasn't good?
It's
It's mid.
I've seen it a few times, so to me, it's weird because I kind of still feel all the way like what you're talking about, and I think it is supposed to be dark because the TV show,
Was
was
more.
pop 80s fun and
Yeah.
all that too, and it would get serious like in the last minute or two sometimes there's some episodes, but
Yes.
it was escapism, and I think maybe Michael Mann said, well, fuck it, if I'm going to go big budget, I'm going to make it what I really want to be, really dark. And you and I, when we reviewed Thief with James Caan, which I think is tremendous, it works because it's so powerful just on James Caan character. And I always talk about the diner scene where he's telling the woman about life, and you're like, man, I can resonate him. These are just like 2 dudes who are watching kind of like do their thing, and while it's kind of cool, it's kind of neat, I don't really feel compelled to like want to root for them or whatever, because she's bad news,
Mhm.
whether he falls for her or not, it's just okay, whatever. um
It
it's
was
not like
pretty.
they're making even, it's not like they're having a little bit of fun, or it's one note kind of all the way through it. Now, it's shot really well. They do a lot of the right things. And so technically speaking, like I think if you look at Collateral, there's a lot more charisma in it. But again, it's not like he's a bad director and he did this
No,
film poorly.
it's
It's just, again, comparing it to the TV show, I think is a very tough thing to do because that's a show, whereas
it's.
this is a film.
If I had not watched the TV show, I wonder what my opinion would be a little bit more favorable to this, because I usually like Colin Farrell movies. It's just that I recently been watching the TV series, and coming and I'm watching this movie. It's just like I just feel like, wow, this is this crappy version of the episode I watched that was way much better and shorter, and it worked better. It just flow better. This kind of just felt like you just dragged out. Like I said, the 40-minute episode took away everything that was great about that episode. You took away Glenn Fry's music. How dare you? Smugglers Run, or Blues, or just everything. It took away the camp, which made it work. Now, like I said, there are people who didn't watch apparently the show and didn't like the movie either. So I'm not alone. So because obviously it flopped now, and I don't really hear anybody talking about it.
Well, part of it too, we mentioned at the beginning here, based off a TV show and going into a movie, we're starting to see that a lot here too. A lot of things also, we're starting to get high def TV, we're starting to get digital and all that. And so even if you watch a lower resolution version of Miami Vice, it's still a very colorful show, not just because of the time and the clothes and all that, but when you look at the ocean and all that, here you've got some scenes where you're like, oh, this looks great, this looks whatever, but there's a coldness to it that still looks digital to me. And I'm not saying it's CGI because I'm not a big fan of it, but I just feel like there's a warmthness to it that I don't know that is there. And I don't know if that's just because it was digitally shot, or maybe with editing and him transitioning the way he used to do things to now, because almost everything is digital these days. It just was like, okay, he's got the long hair, kind of like Sonny. His accent sucks.
Yeah.
There's nothing about their clothes other than they're wearing the jacket, the sport coat over something. I mean, it's like, give me something that is like a callback or an Easter egg, instead of just being serious all the time.
If you took this movie and put the original cast back in, at least put back Don Johnson and was it Michael? What's his name? Philip Michael Thomas.
Yep.
Put them back in the roles in this. I think it would work. I think it would be a so much better movie. I just feel like, because I feel like it's just John Johnson brought something to the role. Same with Philip Michael Thomas their natural chemistry working together. These guys kind of feel like, yeah, I'm 100% with you. I didn't get that whole thing where Michael Tablet would pull Sonny aside. What the hell is going on with you, man? What's your damage? They would get into each other's. I didn't see any of that in this. I didn't see.
I think part of it being serious and dark, literally, is because that's the kind of film it is. I mean,
yeah,
early on when they're at the very beginning there, and the guy's hiring the hookers or whatever, and he runs upstairs and he gets the phone call. I'm like, man, this is a nice little way to do it. And they're standing up top, and you can see the city in the background. I'm like, man, Michael Mann does that stuff better than anybody still to this day to me. But it just feels. It feels cold. It doesn't even though it's supposed to be grungy. That's fine, but it's just there's something about it that doesn't work the way it looks.
That opening scene, I'll say this: when you see Tubbs, they're in the club, and you see the one he's like they're saying he sees basically the one girl who's getting abused. He goes up there and he's aggressive. That was the closest I saw to anything like the original Tubbs in the TV series. He's like, I don't get stand for this shit. I'm gonna go out there. It's like, you don't slap a woman around and stuff. And then you see Sonny come up behind me. He's like, easy, man, easy. He's like, you're gonna blow, relax. That was the closest I saw anything to the actual Miami Vice. This was just a whole new movie, but using the outline. It's like basically, it feels like if you took Michael Mann out of this and say somebody else wrote this, that's what it feels like. Because like I said.
Yeah, and it's just one of the things too when you live on the coast down here in Florida, and you have it's hot during the day and then muggy and all that stuff most of the year. We're starting to get in what they call a dry season for a few months, but even then, you get these sea breezes, right? Not so much here in Central Florida, but definitely on all the coasts. And so the one thing when you would watch the show is if they're sitting down having a drink or talking about whatever, because nobody really cares what the plot is with these things. It's a vibe. You still see stuff moving in the background, the palm trees, the this or that, or their clothes kind of when they're walking, or just in the background, you saw a lot of people in beachwear and bikinis and just, just crap you wear. When you look in the background of the old TV shows, you're like, oh,
it
wow,
felt real.
Exactly. This doesn't. It's very.
It felt very studio.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's like I've mentioned before about the Godzilla films. I prefer the 2000, was it 4 or 14, the 14 one that came out. And then there's a couple of afterwards are just like arcade rampage type movies to me. And most of the CGIs at night, while I'll watch it because it's Godzilla, it's not the same as like -1, which is a very good use of CGI. And I think one of the better films of the year. It works in that it has all the elements of what a Michael Mann film is. So if you're a Michael Mann film and you like that, you'll recognize it in here. But it's not really a fun film to watch. It's just sort of there.
And yeah, it's like I said, it's like the most depressing Michael Mann film I've ever watched. If it's that way. Like I love the camera shots. You still got the Michael Mann camera shots, storytelling, but it was just like it just felt like the characters were just kind of like there's no charisma, there's no chemistry. The most breakout character was the girl in this movie. I thought.
I think this is a lot better movie.
Yeah.
I mean, and not that this is a shit film, but it's just there. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. Any other final thoughts on Miami Vice 2002?
Not much. Like I said, if you guys would rather check out the TV series, I'd say check that out. And it's available on Tubi. Both these are actually on Tubi. You can watch right now. You can watch this movie on Tubi. You can also watch all 5 seasons of Miami Vice on Tubi TV. Go check those out. Curious to see if anybody who's actually watched this and actually watched the actual TV series, what's your opinion on this? Because I wanted to like this. I gave it a shot. I was like, I love Phone Booth with Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
I was expecting that version, the hyper, the more energetic.
Yeah.
This was just kind of like, I'm phoning it in. Can I go get a beer now?
You just most of the scenes too. Yeah. Yeah, it's a struggle for me because I agree with you. I want to like it. It's done well. We could argue that, I see here in the scene, the way they're focused on Trudy's face and the way they cut back to Ricardo's and back and forth and whatever, you're feeling the vibe go. And even the seduction scene where they're going off the Cuba, the way they look, that's all done well. That's good acting, but I don't care. And I hate to say that. It's like, I just don't know. Give me Don Johnson, I guess. I don't know. It's tough. It just doesn't have the TV show elements to it. And it doesn't have to be pop music. It doesn't have to be whatever, but there's a reason why that stuff kind of worked. And in here, they don't have that. There's a little bit more light, and there's a lot of dark stuff in the TV show, but it wasn't 100% the entire episode for the most part, you know. And yeah, it's tough. That's why we talk about these things, because it's not a bad film, but it doesn't mean it's worth watching. Much like Monarch, the TV show, my spoiler is it's very progressive. There's very little muda, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But the only thing that saves is what tiny little screen time Kurt Russell and his son White have in there, because there's absolutely zero juice. And you could tell these people write it and they've got no idea what the fuck is going on. And it's just horrible, even though they're doing it weekly. Episode 5 I'm watching now tonight. I'm just shaking my head going, how do you fuck Godzilla up? And I feel like Miami Vice, I could almost say the same thing. How do you fuck Miami Vice up?
I don't know. I watched the first episode of Monarch. I got halfway through, and the only thing you're right. The only thing that was great was about his kid. But is Wyatt Russell. That was parts. That's the only thing I care about. Anything else, don't need it.
Yeah, and then in the second episode, they find a ship. They do the timelines well. There's some beautiful people in the show. It's a very clean looking show.
It's just kind of just there. It's lackluster.
And they're Scooby-Dooing around, and you just really don't like any of these teenage or young adults, let me say, because they're professionals, working professionals. They're just not likable. I don't fucking care what happens to them. I want them all to die. I mean,
you could have had Wyatt Russell as Sonny Crockett back then. He has more charisma.
We will take over the Kurt Russell doing cop shows like Dark Blue and To Kill Sunrise and some other things here too. The serious stuff, and see how that compares to this.
Right. So I think that's about it. And there's nothing more to talk about. You kind of liked it more than I did. I just felt like this was maybe like out of 5 being the best.
It's mid.
It's 3, but it's teetering on going to a 2. And thank you for showing up, Ed, man, and anybody else who's watching this. I think that's about it. So that being said,
let me give a preview.
Sure.
The best blind swordsman movie of all time, Rutger Hauer, Blind Fury. Check it out. I believe it's on Tubi as well. But
I thought they were doing Lethal Weapon. But we can do that.
That's the next weekend. Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good night. Stay extreme. Good night now.
Good night, guys.